All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I can't tell if I'm seeing the entire, change my view here. Got gallery view. All right, we'll be at 4 o'clock, and I will call the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization to order for our Wednesday, April 22nd, 4 p.m. vote. And with that, if we can do the roll call. Gorion, will you be handling that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisor Galloway,
Present?
Councilor Oshrin, Supervisor Malik,
Present.
Councilor Fleischer,
Here.
Sean Nelson,
I'm here.
and Stacy Laundrie.
She may not be joining. She's in addition to Sean, I guess. Sean, you look so far away.
Yeah, I can't get the zoom to zoom in on the camera either, so I don't know if that's a good thing.
All right, are there others to call, Gorion, or are we good?
I believe that's everybody.
All right, we will then we have to read the electronic meeting notice. Is that accurate? So we better do that part next.
All right, this meeting of the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization, CAMPO Policy Board is being held pursuant to the Code of Virginia, subsection C of 2.2-3708.3, which allows a public body to hold all virtual public meetings. The meeting is being held via electronic video and audio means through Zoom online meetings and is accessible to the public. The method for holding this meeting shall not change unless a new meeting notice is provided. Should the electronic transmission fail, you may reach out to the TJPDC at tjenkins@tjpdc.org. Notice has been provided to the public through notice at the TJPDC offices, to the media, website posting, and agenda. The meeting is held pursuant to the remote electronic participation and all virtual meeting policy as adopted by the CAMPO Policy Board on August 27, 2025. The meeting minutes will reflect that the meeting was held by electronic communication means and the type of electronic communications means by which the meeting was held.
All right, very good. And we don't have to, it's been a while since I've done an all virtual. We don't have to do anything but read the notice, correct?
That is correct. And I'm going to put in a chat a friendly reminder about video and sound on during action items.
Thank you. As for voting members, most notably. All right, we will move to item number 2, matters from the public. By raise of the virtual hand, I see Peter put his hand up. Anybody else that wishes to give public comment today? Mr. Yoder, are you putting your virtual hand up there?
I can't find the virtual hand button, so I'm putting my real hand up.
I'm putting my actual hand up. All right. Any others? All right, Mr. Krebs, you have 3 minutes to, I'm sorry, Rory, are you joining the list?
Yes, I also cannot find the raise hand button. Sorry.
Man, you guys are, it's been a while for a Zoom meeting, huh? All right, Mr. Krebs, and for the others, you have 3 minutes to address the policy board, and we will note the time when you begin speaking. We'll go from there. Mr. Krebs, you're well rehearsed at this. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Policy Board and members of the public. I attended your last work session that was just a sort of good and very frank discussion about smart scale, and I really appreciated the comments about the limitations of what smart scale can do. I mean that in a couple of different ways. Number one, it tends to skew the types of projects that we pursue. It limits the number of projects that we can pursue. It's quite rigorous, and at the same time, the results are often very unsatisfactory and make it difficult for the elected officials on the board to go back to their constituents and declare, wins or show progress. Yet it is an essential tool that needs to be used for some things. So as we finish up this set of applications and move into an off year, presumably we'll be exploring smart revenue sharing and perhaps TAP grants. But also let's use that opportunity to look for alternative ways to really get done what the community would like to see as far as transportation. And let's look broadly and creatively, and especially let's do it together. If I may, I'll take a quick moment to give an example. Albemarle County is pursuing a grant from DCR, a recreational trails grant, to extend the Old Mills Trail 4 miles west from where it currently ends at I-64 all the way to Glenmore eventually, which will connect one of the county's development areas to another county development area and the city of Charlottesville along the Rivanna River in a super scenic way. So I think DCR is going to hopefully be the primary funder for the first phase of this. But even this is going to require a lot of collaboration. So there's city and the county, but there's also going to need to be help from VDOT because the trail will cross under the I-64 overpass at the Rivanna River. There'll need to be support from the DRPT because it'll also cross under the Buckingham branch. But it looks like this first phase, if we do it right, will be under $1 million. So could be a good opportunity and just an example of how working together can really bring dividends, and always value creative approaches. So thank you for your work, and I look forward to listening to the rest.
Thank you, Peter. It looks like both Danny and Rory figured out the virtual hands. Mr. Yoder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Policy Board. My name is Danny Yoder. I am a Charlottesville Planning Commissioner, and I am the Commission's representative to the MPO Tech Committee. I'm here to speak to two of the smart scale application projects that will be before you today that are in your packet. They are the on-ramp and off-ramp on the bypass US 29-250 at Old Ivy Road and Leonard Sandbridge Road. There is an issue in the written resolutions endorsing these projects. The resolutions state, quote, whereas the 2050 LRTP includes the following transportation improvements, unquote. The MPO's long-range transportation plan does not mention these two ramp projects. The LRTP identifies locations that are high priority needs for our region, and these locations do not appear on any of these lists in the LRTP. The LRTP identifies 5 major goals for the region's transportation system. That's safety, multimodal accessibility, land use, environment, and efficiency and economic development. The two projects in question will not contribute to these goals in a meaningful way. These projects were identified in a VDOT pipeline study. However, the State Transportation Plan, VTrans, does not identify these locations as priority needs to be addressed. The presentation in your packet states that these projects will address safety and capacity preservation. However, neither VTrans nor the MPO's LRTP identifies these locations as priority needs for safety improvement or capacity preservation. Spending $24 million on highway widening projects that have not been identified as priority needs in any of our plans and do not contribute to our region's vision for the future is not good planning practice. One argument for advancing these projects is that we should not leave money on the table. Since the Smart Scale formula does not favor the types of projects that our region needs or wants, we may as well get what we can. If this is the philosophy behind multi-million-dollar investments in our transportation system, why do we even create plans? Planners in our local jurisdictions put a lot of time and effort into creating plans. We asked members of the public to spend many hours helping us create a shared vision for the future. As a planning commissioner, I'm uncomfortable with the idea that we should set aside these plans in order to get state funds. In conclusion, the reason why we are in this situation is that the Smart Scale formula does not align with our region's vision for the future. If you look at our local plans, you'd think we spend most of our transportation funds on multimodal connectivity. Thanks to Smart Scale, most of the transportation funding for our region flows to roadway capacity projects such as roundabouts and DDIs. I urge the policy board to reject these two applications and instead focus on delivering the transportation system envisioned by our local plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Mr. Rory?
Yes, thank you for your time. That was a tough act to follow. I don't have quite as prepared of a comment, but I did want to note a few new things. I've reviewed the April 7th MPO Technical Committee meeting where they made a recommendation in favor of this. And I want to point out some issues, I think, with Albemarle staff's internal reasoning for pushing these projects. As Danny said, these are not identified projects. This is not an identified problem area. And the purpose of them seems to be to solve a problem in another location because of a sort of lack of confidence that those applications in that location to actually solve the problem will be approved. Furthermore, there was a comment from staff that this movement serves the western neighborhoods in the county's development area and Crozet, which is where county is expecting significant growth. Of course, you all just finished your AC 44 comprehensive plan process, which had a land use build out analysis of projects in your pipeline and future build out potential. As I think you're probably aware, neighborhood 6 and 7, your western neighborhoods, are not expecting serious growth. In fact, they've had very little growth for many decades, and there is really only one project that is currently in progress that's proposed there, the Greystar Old Ivy project, a student-oriented project where we can expect significant non-vehicular trips, especially if we accommodate them with adequate transportation facilities. I can post in the chat a link to this analysis for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I just want to reiterate, there are 532 approved unbuilt residential units as of April 2025 in neighborhood 7, 0 in neighborhood 6. 525 of those units are in this Greystar development that's underway. Crozet, additionally, similarly, nearing the end of its build out, not like the western neighborhood several decades ago, but in the near future. And most of the growth that the county anticipates is happening up in Hollymead and down in the southern neighborhoods. I question the idea of using a highway widening as a backup plan for needs identified elsewhere. In order to given the negative effects that we know as planners in 2026 of highway widening and induced demand. Further, I want to talk about the unusual process I think this has gone through to be approved as an MPO smart scale project, potentially. I think
You're
we have
hitting
been
your
in
3 minutes, so you may have to conclude your remarks there.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome to submit written statements as well to us if you want to communicate that way as well. Is there anyone else who wishes to give public comment today? All right, we will close matters from the public and move to item number 3. We do have 2 items. We have to review and accept today's agenda. Are there any changes or edits to the agenda as presented? All right, if all the policy board members could unmute your microphones. And is there a motion to adopt today's agenda?
I move adoption of today's agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. We're going to have to do roll calls all day because it gets confusing with the virtual. So I'll just go ahead. Counselor Oshrin?
Yes.
Counselor Fleischer?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Malik?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, the agenda is adopted. And we'll go to item number 3B, approval of the draft March 2026 special session meeting minutes. Are there any changes or edits to those minutes? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the March 2026 special session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Gorian, why don't I hand over the roll calling duties to you, sir?
That's fine with me.
Call the roll when you're ready.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes?
Council Oshry,
Yes.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Council Fleischer,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
All right, very good. The minutes are approved. So we'll move to item number 4. We've got a slew of 5 different items under new business. The first of which will be Smart Scale Round 7 projects under consideration. And Taylor, you have a presentation. I know that we have seen these items before, so I'm going to ask that we go through the presentation and then we'll hold comments, questions until the presentation is complete.
Thank you. Could someone give me just a quick confirmation that you can see the presentation slides on the screen?
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you. All right. This afternoon, our agenda includes items for action regarding Smart Scale Round 7 projects under consideration. MPO staff and its committees have worked diligently since last fall in coordination with VDOT, the City of Charlottesville, and Albemarle County staff to bring forth information on projects as it's been made available. So the pre-application for Smart Scale has closed, and we're now preparing for the full application period, which will open on June 1st. So first, I want to just offer a brief recap on recent meetings that have occurred. So on March 20th, this body held a special meeting, which was the Smart Scale Workshop, where VDOT and local staff discussed future opportunities to begin building a regional funding strategy, as well as presentations from local staff on projects under consideration for submission by each jurisdiction and the MPO. No action was taken at this meeting. Following that meeting, the MPO Technical Committee met on April 7th and were shown the most up-to-date information on MPO projects under consideration. At this meeting, there were multiple items for action. As a requirement of the full application submission, all projects that are submitted have to have resolutions of support from their own governing bodies, as well as resolutions of support from the MPO if projects are located within the urbanized area. So for the resolution endorsing projects submitted by Albemarle and Charlottesville, the technical committee recommended policy board adoption unanimously of those. For the MPO projects, those resolutions were presented individually for each of the 4 projects under consideration by the MPO. For the Barracks Road and I-64 5th Street projects, MPO Technical Committee voted unanimously to recommend policy board adoption of resolutions supporting those projects. For the Old Ivy Road on-ramp and Leonard Sandridge Road off-ramp auxiliary lane project, the technical committee voted to recommend policy board adoption of the resolution, though it was not a unanimous vote. For the Old Ivy Road southbound off-ramp extension, the committee deferred taking action on making a recommendation until their June technical committee meeting. So the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss these projects that are under consideration for the MPO to submit for round 7, and also to take action on the required resolutions of support for the projects. So there are sort of 2 categories of action that you all are being asked to take today. The first is a resolution of support for the locality submitted applications, and the second category of action would be the resolutions of support for the MPO submitted applications. So 3 different options for the board here today. Option 1, under this category, you could adopt resolutions of support for the MPO projects. Option 2, do not adopt resolutions of support for the MPO projects. And option 3, adopt resolutions of support for all of the MPO projects except the Ivy Road southbound ramp extension, and defer action on that project until the next policy board meeting, which would be June 24th. With a recommendation from the technical committee after they meet at their June 2nd meeting. So all of these slides are information that you all have seen before, but I just wanted to briefly cover them again just to give everyone a refresher of the projects that are being considered by the MPO. So the first project is I-64 5th Street DDI, Shared Use Path Connection and Sidewalk Connection. That includes converting the existing interchange to a diverging diamond interchange, constructing shared use path along Fifth Street, and adding various pedestrian crossings. This project would also add fencing to the bridge and construct a bus boarding platform and shelter pad at Fifth Street Landing. This is a resubmission of a previous project, and the preliminary project cost is $44.7 million. Next is the 29 northbound, 250 eastbound on-ramp extension at Ivy Road. This project would increase the length of the on-ramp and add an additional on-ramp lane at Old Ivy Road. It would also connect the Ivy Road on-ramp with the Leonard Sandridge off-ramp by an auxiliary lane. And the preliminary cost for this is $13.8 million. The next project is the 29 southbound, 250 westbound off-ramp extension at Ivy Road. This project would increase the length of the off-ramp by approximately 600 feet, and the preliminary cost for that is $10.6 million. And finally, the 29 northbound, 250 eastbound off-ramp and pedestrian improvements at Barracks Road. And this project would include dual left turn lanes onto Barracks Road, connecting the Leonard Sandridge on-ramp to the Barracks Road off-ramp by an auxiliary lane, constructing sidewalk, and also adding a crosswalk across Barracks Road. The preliminary cost for this project is $21.3 million. So that was pretty brief. The next steps for this process, so the pre-applications have been submitted. So beginning in May, OIPI, VDOT, and DRPT review pre-applications, and OIPI provides a determination on screening decisions. So they will let applicants know what projects screen in, which ones screen out. And then June 1st, round 7 full applications open. So that's when the portal is back accessible to staff for us to begin adding the additional documentation and continuing to work on these projects. As of the technical committee meeting, the dates that were communicated for the local resolutions of support, June 17th would be when the local projects would be brought before Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, as well as MPO projects that fall within their jurisdiction. July 20th would be when the city's project would be taken to Charlottesville City Council. And August 3rd at 5 p.m. is the full application deadline. Following that, in January would be when the staff recommended funding scenario would be presented. So that's the first look at the scores per how they are evaluated in the smart scale process. And then June, they would be adopted by the CTB. Right. And so with that, I pass it back to you, Chair Galloway. Is there anything, do we have any questions? Maybe do we want to start there?
The first questions for Taylor on any of these that anybody needs to do, and you may have to speak up. Okay, Supervisor Malik, and I can't see everybody. Go ahead, Supervisor Malik, and then I'll
Thank you.
change my view.
Is
here.
there any clarification about the comments earlier that these projects in question were not on the appropriate list? Because they've been in discussion lists for 20 years since I worked in that area. And I don't know how they fell off if they are not on there now. So if someone with the actual authority could address that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I'm happy to speak to that. So in the long-range transportation plan, as a regional plan, it is pretty big picture in some instances and really far in the weeds in other instances. And so included on our constrained project list, there is a line for Ivy Road corridor improvements that is listed in there. So even if it's not specifically this Ivy Road ramp, Ivy Road corridor improvements are listed as a priority in the constrained project list for the MPO.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Monteith?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is the right point for me to make a comment, but I do have a comment that I'd like to make regarding the Barracks Road off-ramp. So would this be the proper time or should I wait?
I think we'll be getting into discussion. But I mean, it's open now, so we can, why don't you go ahead with your comment and then we'll see how the discussion goes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to express our concern at UVA with the Barracks Road off-ramp project due to impacts to the adjacent UVA property Sunnyside, which is both federally and state listed as historic property. I also expressed these same concerns at the March 20th meeting, and we requested a conversation with VDOT, which has now been scheduled. So we appreciate that because a conversation is the next step in the process. But I just wanted to acknowledge all of this at the meeting today. And I also wanted to note that in regard to the Barracks Road right turn lane project, if there are any impacts that are related to the SUP, to UVA land, we'd also be concerned about that location.
And I'm sorry, I don't understand. What's that second one?
It's where there's a planned SUP along Barracks Road, south of the bypass.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions here? All right, I think there are clearly some here that won't invite a lot of extra discussion. So
Jen's hand is up.
Oh, sorry, Counselor Fleischer.
No worries. I finally figured out how to do that. Ms. Jenkins, are the votes per project when it comes to the MPO projects, or is it grouped? I'm just a little confused by how it's.
That's where, yeah, I'll take that. That's where we were going to go here.
Okay.
I think the county and city projects, there didn't seem to be any disgruntlement at the tech committee about those. And then there's the 5th Street interchange and the 29 northbound 250 eastbound ramp extension Barracks Road off-ramp project. Those all seem to be not of issue. So in the interest of time and some constraints that the Albemarle supervisors have today, I would recommend that we dispense with those with votes. And then it looks like there's really only 2 items that could invite further discussion today. And then we can spend some time on those. So is that, to anybody object to that as an approach? Then what I would be looking for is a motion to, let's see, adopt the resolution endorsing the submission of smart scale applications for projects submitted by Albemarle County in the City of Charlottesville within the urbanized area for round 7 as described herein.
I move that we adopt that resolution for the county projects. I don't have any right to do the ones for the city, so.
So we'll do the county first, then we'll do the city one second. So the motion is there. These are for the Albemarle County applications, not the ones the MPO is going to submit.
Right.
There didn't seem to be any issue with that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. If all mics can be unmuted, please. And if Gorion, you will call the roll call, please.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes.
Councilor Oshrin,
Yes.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Councilor Fleischer,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Right, that motion carries. And then we invite one of the counselors to move adoption of the resolution endorsing the submission of smart scale applications for the project submitted by the City of Charlottesville.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. If you'll please call the roll.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes.
Councilor Oshrin,
Yes.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Councilor Fleischer,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
All right, those motions carry. That would bring us to the first 2 MPO submitted applications. I would be looking for a motion to adopt the resolution endorsing CAMPO's smart scale application for the I-64 5th Street interchange project.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, if you'll call the roll.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes.
Counselor Oshry,
Yes.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Counselor Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
All right, very good. Motion carries. And looking for a motion to adopt the resolution endorsing CAMPO's smart scale application for the US 29 northbound, US 250 eastbound ramp extension Barracks Road off-ramp project.
So moved.
Been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Gorian, if you'll call the roll, please.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes.
Counselor Oshry,
Yes.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Counselor Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
All right, very good. Then the next item is the CAMPO is the Old Ivy Road on-ramp, Leonard Sandridge Road off-ramp, auxiliary lane ramp. And then the remaining item would be the US 29 250 southbound off-ramp extension to Old Ivy Road. Both of these items, I suspect, may invite further discussion. So I'll just open it up to that discussion now. Is there anyone that would like to begin?
Should I make a motion to adopt the Ivy Road ramp motion, or are they to be done together?
I
Those
would
two
do these. We could do these individually, just like we did the other two. And I was going to see if there was any discussion ahead of the motion, but we can also do discussion once the motion's on the table. All right, go ahead with the motion.
I move that we forward the resolution for the Old Ivy ramp, northbound 29, eastbound 250 bypass.
And let me just are you on the Leonard Sandridge Road off ramp, Supervisor Malik, or?
Yes, that's yes. From
I'll go ahead and
Old
read that
Ivy.
just so we
Okay,
have
please.
it.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to adopt the resolution endorsing CAMPO's smart scale application for the Old Ivy Road on ramp, Leonard Sandridge Road off ramp, auxiliary lane ramp project.
So moved.
So moved. Got it. Is there a second? I will second the motion. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Jen, did you want to?
Sure, I can jump in. Thank you for opening the floor to discussion on this. And this maybe ties into the letter that Councilor Oshry and I sent earlier today to this group, which relates to both the Leonard Sandridge and the other Old Ivy ramp and some of the discussion we've heard here already. Just to clarify that that letter was requesting was honoring the fact that these two projects have caused some disagreements about their validity and whether they are necessary, but really more so about the process of how we got here with these projects. And we are very appreciative of the special session that was held and the work that has been done so far to bring this forward, and feel like this is a great opportunity. The discussion that these two projects have brought up is a great opportunity for us to improve our process to fund and develop the projects that serve us all regionally, and showcase where we can collaborate and really work towards our unified and cooperative goals, where we've maybe seen in this process that we've kind of diverged because the process isn't ideal. It seems like there has been a lot of, just from my short time here, frustration with all different angles of the process. There's no one agency that is at fault here. We're just really thinking that that these two projects in particular give us the chance to discuss an opportunity to review how we get here to these decisions for smart scale, and speaking back to that special session and Mr. Nelson's points about different methods and modalities and mechanisms of funding and where those gaps are, and other chances and opportunities we have to advance projects. That being said, for this particular project, the Leonard Sandridge, one of the issues beyond those kind of mentioned in our public comment period and that we've expressed in the special meeting is that it will disrupt, if not kind of kill, the Ravenna Trail in its development on that side of 250. And later we'll see in this agenda that our work plan really supports unified efforts to sustain that trail and the 3-notch trail that will also be running through this corridor. So I think that work plan, again, speaking of the opportunities that this kind of discord has allowed itself, speak to a lot of process and are a great place, potentially when we get there, tasks 2 and 3 in that work plan, to slot in process development and plans that we're agreeing to, and one of those being the trail. So I, in particular, for multiple reasons, but one of them being that destruction of the trail, can't really support the Leonard Sandridge piece of this, and hope that we can later, I know time is short for our supervisors, but that we can discuss our potential for process improvements as we move forward. Natalie, I didn't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I think we want to acknowledge that we sent this letter not to cast blame, but to recognize that we have an opportunity. We know that people from the county are frustrated and have expressed those frustrations with the funding, the structure, I don't want to overuse the word process, but we know that VDOT has been frustrated. You know, everyone's operating within a system, and we know that everyone here is operating in good faith. That is something that we feel privileged to work in an environment where people are doing that. But we are wondering and hoping that this is a time where we can revisit the structure in which we're operating and figure out if there's a way to choose projects differently, to make sure that priorities are aligned, to make sure that the priorities of our constituents are understood and reflected, and the priorities of the county's constituents are understood and reflected a little bit better, so that we don't get to this point in the process and have this level of anxiety about pushing these projects forward. We also are concerned about submitting applications that, I know this is kind of how it's set up. So again, it's a process thing where it makes sense for us to, like the county's projects where there's the roundabout and then the double roundabout, and they're competing against each other, but they're both overlapping good. Whereas they're also competing with the, if the off-ramp ends up getting submitted, that's a easier project for the state to say okay to, but it doesn't solve the project that we want it to. And so by that competing, we're worried that it's going to take away potential for the good projects, the roundabouts that we think are going to help solve not just the off-ramp issue, but flow through in general. So the process is something that we want to work on together because we do want this to be collaborative. We know that we're going to have to make compromises, and everyone probably will make some compromise of some kind, but it is not a, that wasn't a, we want to make sure that people recognize that wasn't a shot across the bow of any kind. It was a, hey, let's recognize that there have been frustrations that have kind of come to this point and see if there's a way that we can kind of get aligned better a little earlier. So I hope that helped put that note into some context. And then, you know, as Jen mentioned, we have trail concerns. We also have, I also have at least as former planning commissioner Stolzenberg mentioned, we in 2026 understand induced demand and road widening and how that doesn't solve problems long term, which is something that I know we've talked about in MPO before, but something that promises that I made to the constituents when I was running were that I wouldn't support additional parking lots or road widenings in our area. And so given that not parking lots here, but this is the road widening matter, is to me, that is not, it's not solving the problem long term. It's not a promise I made to my constituents. And so I am very hesitant to go forward with these projects as designed.
All right, Supervisor Malik or Mr. Nelson, any comments? We
Yes,
still have
I
a
guess-
motion on the table, so it is discussion. And I'm happy to have it be broader for both topics because it is, so it's fine.
Thank you. I'll jump in here. The trail is on the Gray Star property and is not in danger of being damaged. And when you cross Leonard Sandridge, it is significantly back east and south on Leonard Sandridge where the trail crosses with a crosswalk. And it is not being damaged or threatened. And it's outside the highway right of way there as well. Later on, when it comes back through the woods over toward the Duke property, it's nowhere near the road either. It's on the other side of the stream. So I think that with some careful planning and design at the last minute, at the end of the Barracks Road end, there will be no issue there. I have not heard, I've not heard from county staff. There's been no presentation about how they think that the process is flawed. So the fact that others are speaking for them is troubling to me. And so I will be glad to hear from them in a board meeting. I guess my other question is, the representatives of the MPO take all the projects to the Board of Supervisors for discussion and approval. We don't just bring them here to the MPO and on our own account. So I would like to make sure before any of this goes further that the full city council has discussed and approved these resolution changes that you are making. Because no one has mentioned that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nelson, any comments that you would like to make?
Thanks, Chair Galloway. I welcome the conversations to talk about process. Would love to have those conversations together with everyone, including the NPO, the county, and the city, to talk of things that we can do better. The projects that are before us that are being talked about were a part of a pipeline study that I will say that I was kind of at the forefront of due to a meeting we had in Albemarle County regarding some issues out there. The solution to solving some of those problems and figuring out what needed to happen was this pipeline study. This pipeline study looked at a large area. There's lots of projects within that pipeline study. There are lots of recommendations within that pipeline study. These are two that were in there. These are also two that the public sentiment in the survey was really high. So there is a need there. It checks the boxes for VTrans. It went through a process that is well defined in the studies, the pipeline studies. They're not VDOT studies. Those are studies that actually come from the Office of Interplanning and Investment. So they are engaged in that at the state level also. So I just wanted to provide that context that these projects came from a pipeline study that went through a very defined process.
Mr. Nelson, if you don't mind, when you said it checks the VTrans boxes, what do you mean by that?
You're muted, Mr. Nelson.
You're muted, sorry.
I think when I was reading through the packet, I don't know if you've seen the pipeline study, but it kind of goes through and talks about how these projects came about and if there were needs associated with them. So it's all in the pipeline study. And it was also, I thought it was a part of the packet that we got today that showed which projects were potentially eligible and who could apply for them and what the needs were.
not muted. Is that I'm remembering back to the the special meeting that we had where these were noted as priority. One of them was a priority 3 project. I don't remember what the other one was. Is that VTrans or is that something different?
That's V-Trans.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and priority 1 is a higher priority than priority 3, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? I think I'll make a comment that's probably related to both motions. They're both projects, but and I want to recognize that the many perspectives that I've heard getting up to speed for today. But I do want to make one observation about how this particular concern has come forward. And while individuals may have raised concerns previously, this is the first time it's been presented at this level in this way. When disagreements reach this point, it's important that they are elevated earlier so the policy board and our respective governing bodies can engage before we each reach a decision. As we consider what we've heard today, I think it's important that we distinguish between staff level input, individual perspectives, and adopted positions of our respective governing bodies. And, I'm open to reflecting on, whether a broader conversation about process, coordination going forward is pertinent. That was not on today's agenda, so that could be put on an agenda for discussion. I don't think that discussion should delay the actions that before us today, and nor do I think it changes what would occur a month from now. There's no time to maneuver around these applications. The decision would simply be to advance them or not advance them. From the county's perspective, the projects being advanced reflect direction from our full board of supervisors at our March 4th meeting, and Ann and I are acting consistent with that direction. A functioning roadway network is foundational to all modes of travel, and we have breakdowns at key points that impact safety and reliability for everyone, regardless of how they travel. So I think our responsibility here is to determine whether these applications should move forward for consideration in this round. And the letter received today by the full policy board, voting and non-voting members, the chair, the vice chair, and I can work into a future agenda for discussion and see what may come from that. With that, unless there is any other discussion, we do have a motion on the table to adopt the resolution endorsing the CAMPO Smart Scale application for the Old Ivy Road on-ramp, Leonard Sandridge Road off-ramp, auxiliary lane ramp project. Is there any further discussion? Supervisor Malik?
I will just add one thought, and that is if we're looking for regional benefit, our public safety, fire and rescue is a regional effort, and our jurisdictional officers help each other on regular basis when the need arises. And without a functioning bypass, without open lanes of traffic for fire and rescue to move and police department vehicles to move, nobody gets good service, whether it's in the city or the county. And that's a really important feature to be able to deliver. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Was that
right.
Part of any study that we did leading up to this? Was response time analysis?
Not for this study, but it certainly has been done on a regular basis with our local agencies. If you work in the area at all or drive the area, you will see what needs to be repaired multiple times a day, every day. And I look forward to that. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Oh, I'm in here.
Somebody turn the light off on
Thank you.
Councilor Austin. Rude.
Okay.
All right, hearing no discussion, the motion I've restated was made and seconded. Gorion, if you would please call the roll.
Supervisor Galloway,
Yes?
Councilor Oshrin,
No.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes,
Councilor Fleischer,
No.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries 3-2. Thank you. The next motion is the resolution endorsing CAMPO's smart scale application for the US 29-250 southbound off-ramp extension to Old Ivy Road. Is there a motion doing that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Is this the one, the deferral, or was that the other one?
This is the one the tech committee deferred for recommendation.
Okay, and did we,
All right, I'm going to second the
Oh,
motion.
sorry. Did we get a presentation on why they recommended the deferral?
We did not.
We heard it was because CTB is considering the roundabout as part of a high priority pool funding process instead. And as such, if it gives it a better chance of working. And so if that works, then we don't need this. So that was why the tech committee recommended a deferral, and that meeting the results of that meeting haven't happened yet. So I would prefer a deferral instead of a thumbs up or thumbs down today. So we can see with full comprehension of the availability.
Mr. Nelson?
I think that decision was made today, and Captain Byers is on the meeting, and I believe that the CTB voted today to allow the innovative intersections to be applicable for high priority funds.
Oh, great.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That's great news.
Okay, so my understanding of all of that, building out of March 20, is that there's different ways to try to find funding. That does not necessarily change, because if we say, okay, well, we hope that gets funded that way, this project, in my opinion, still needs to be advanced for funding consideration as well. There's no guarantees with any of this. So I'm ready to make, the motion's been made and seconded. I'm ready to vote on what we're going to do with this item today. Supervisor Malik, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. I will just add one comment that this project is separate from the others. It addresses different issues, including a long time movement of historic population centers. The community of Crozet and the whole Western County area, which I represent, has grown from 2,500 people to 15,000 since 2005. And it is the responsibility of VDOT to be able to not have all this traffic backing up into the travel lanes for these people needing to get where they're going. While we have the Afton Express and other ways to get people to work, which is terrific, and the Jaunt Crozet Connect, those are not sufficient at this point to allow people the flexibility to get their groceries and get to doctor's appointments, et cetera. And there is just not enough capacity in this connection lane to be able to keep the highway safe, the roadway of statewide significance, as well as to move emergency vehicles around. So I very much support this myself. I just wanted to make that point. This is not talking about future residents. This is talking about people who are already here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fleischer. You're muted.
Great, thanks. Ms. Jenkins, you had given us an option 3 with some dates on it. Oh, I could scroll back through the slides. If say a motion to defer went through, does it still leave time before the July deadline? If this was not, do those deadlines not coincide or cooperate?
So the deadline for applications is August 3rd. However, we also have in the timeline the projects in each jurisdiction going to City Council and the Board of Supervisors. And so there may have to be some shuffling around of when those projects were going before the other boards.
So if this project went to the CTB route that we just heard was a possibility and it got denied, could it still have time with the board reviews to get into to make the smart scale deadline?
So maybe I want to make sure I understand the question. When you say go the CTB route, do you mean after projects have already been evaluated and scored?
Oh, no, sorry, hold on. Let me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find your slide.
I think the deferral was to wait for the CTB's decision. But now that the decision has been made, tech committee still would like to review. So that's what the deferral would be for.
I understand. And then make it whether it should go to that funding source.
Right, because their recommendation, tech committee's recommendation was to defer, not to recommend or not recommend this project. So they still need to give it a pass before sending it back to us.
I get it. Thank you. Okay. That. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Yeah. And then as our public commenters mentioned, we have done a lot of plans and a lot of studies, and this also did not, it was a tier 3, it was a priority 3. I don't believe there, of course, anytime you're in a car, there are safety concerns, but I don't know if this stuck out in the safety management plan. So I'll just note that we have data and we should use that. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Malik.
I just want to reiterate that these are two different issues. The roundabout at Bel Air is not solving the ramp backup issue. The ramp backup issue has been going on for 25 years and far in advance of so much more growth, exponential more growth in the western part of the county. These are people who come to the city for hospital care as well as for work and bring considerable value to the city in their coming. But they also deserve the right to be able to be safer and be able to get the road going. I'd be delighted if the roundabout is adopted and funded. But as I said, it does not solve the historic issue we've had of backing up onto the westbound ramp.
And I know you have to go in 2 minutes, but how do we know they're not related?
I don't know where this other information that Mr. Nelson said this already, is that they're different projects coming out of the pipeline study. Yes, they're in the same geography, but the sequence of them has been very different. And I will certainly be staying here until this is over. Thank you.
Councilor Fleischer.
Thank you. I sorted myself out here. So I think I would love for the technical committee to weigh on whether that roundabout does affect this off-ramp. I think there is some discussion ongoing about that it actually will make a difference. But I would love to hear their opinion on that. I think the roundabout moving into the HPP pool means that this project will compete for it with funds, and that competition is what I'm worried about, because the roundabout so far in what I've seen has such potential for a great impact here and has multimodal built into that design. So my concern is that competition piece of this winning over that.
Well, wait, so you have to realize with high priority funds, with making it eligible, it's going to be competing statewide. Not just region-wide, it's statewide. So it will be competing with every other entity that has projects that are allowed, that meets the criteria to be applicable for high priority funds. So if the ramp extension scores higher than the roundabout, it's going to be relative to how it scores statewide. But within the region, if the two applications are submitted in their score and the ramp extension scores higher than the roundabout, based on the criteria in which is measured on, you would fund the higher rated project. So this notion of it competing against each other, I think that's a good thing. I'm trying to figure out how having it not compete against each other I'm losing. I don't understand that notion.
I think it's a much cheaper project. It's a project based on scoring for, a previous administration's rubric that is into expanding highways that isn't really, again, upstream enough to solve the problem that the roundabout so far is proposed to do. And I fear that because it is a cheaper project and it aligns, that it would get done I thought it would maybe bump out the other opportunity for the roundabouts, which I would consider an upstream project to do the work it needs to do. So that conflict was what I was envisioning at. But I saw Ms. Jacobs has her hand raised, so I don't know if that was answering that.
Christine, was Mr. Nelson's explanation what you were going to speak to?
No, I was going to speak to something else. Just that another discussion at the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and either Mr. Nelson or Captain Byers can probably speak more to this, but they did vote to allow innovative intersections to be eligible for HPP. They have not yet determined the priority order. So that is not something an applicant decides if they will put it in for HPP or put it in for DGP. As a matter of fact, I think the OIP staff recommended bringing back to the Commonwealth Transportation Board in January, when they have the staff recommended scenarios, to bring it in both formats. If you fund HPP first and then DGP, or if you fund DGP and then HPP. So I just want to make sure everybody on this call realizes it's not the applicant deciding which pool they're going to go into.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I just still think there's merit in having our tech committee review this and give us a formal recommendation before we make a vote on it.
Understood. Noting that comment. I don't think it changes the decision. We just have more information. At this point, the pre-apps are done. So the question is, the application will either advance or it won't. Happy to have the information, but it's not required to have their recommendation either way for us to proceed with our decisions that are before us. So my intent, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, Mr. Gorian, I'll call you Mr. Gorian. If you would please call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Galloway,
Yes.
Councilor Usher,
No.
Supervisor Malik,
Yes.
Councilor Fleischer,
No.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 3-2. I appreciate the conversation and the discussion. That does conclude item number 4A. We will move to item number 4B, our fiscal year 27 Unified Planning Work Program. Supervisor Malik, I would invite you, if you would like to exit to the supervisors meeting, you can, or we can continue with these action items. I'm going to remain until all the action items are completed.
Right.
But I'll leave that to your prerogative.
I will hang out until 5:30. Thank you.
For the record, we have a budget meeting, but they will delay and be in recess until